saying, but they try to understand what you're feeling. That's why we call them sensitive artificial listeners. And they try to react to your non-verbal communicative signals. They try to react to your head nodding, shaking. When you smile, they smile back. You are a bit of an airhead, though.
Really?
The way I view my research, it's the building block that's necessary for people to start studying more complex mental states and more complex behavior, such as empathy.
That's interesting.
All these tools that we're making, there is no reason why we could not use a robot to interpret what you're doing. That is definitely possible, and that is something that we would be very keen to work on. If only because it's such a nice science fiction type of scenario that we all dream of when we were young.
The robot, always at your service.
Now, none of us like crystal gazing, so let's take a look at what is actually happening now.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper. Well, it's not as far-fetched as it may seem.
There's no doubt that as each generation's become more connected, especially now with the internet, much more cosmopolitan. The old borders, the ethnic borders, the religious borders, the racial borders, they're just breaking down with the younger generation. When the Iranian protest occurred, the young people took to the streets in protest of the flawed election results in the Iranian election. And you recall that one young woman, a pre-med student named Nadia, was demonstrating, and her friend was videoing her, and she was gunned down by the troops. Within an hour, millions of young people around the world knew her Facebook, her family, her relatives, what she was about, and that was a sister. She was now a sister to millions of young people who could identify with her in a very, very deep way. That's global empathy. That's the beginning of an empathic civilization. As we go to the internet, we have an interesting conundrum, and that is we connect the world and we have more ways to communicate with each other quicker, but we may have less ability to communicate and express what we really feel. The problem is when you have a hyper-efficient generation on the internet, constantly stimulated, trying to be more efficient, here's the question. Can one truly be intimate in an efficient way? Can one experience another's pain and joy efficiently? Would anyone ever say to their sibling, their husband, their wife, I love you, and I love you so much I'm going to maximize my output in the minimum time with a minimum input of labor, energy, and capital to show you how much I care for you?
I think at the evolutionary level we are essentially self-serving. Let's say everything that we inherited from our ancestors, all the tendencies, had some payoff for those ancestors. Otherwise those ancestors would not have been doing so well. And the same is true for empathy and altruism. They served a purpose in their small-scale societies, even though we now live in huge societies where we're surrounded by millions of people. And we're still applying these same tendencies, but now to strangers very often. The thing that's interesting is that we have the capacity to adjust to urban life. And I find that fascinating. I don't know how we do that actually, because if you would put 10 million chimpanzees in New York, I don't think, well, there's all sorts of reasons why New York would look different, but one reason is that there would be a bloodbath, I think, given the territorial nature of the chimpanzee. And I don't know how humans have made that transition from, it's of course a transition that happened over thousands of years. Urbanization is not something that happened yesterday, but still, thousands of years is a short time in evolutionary terms.
The remarkable fact about our present situation is that 85% of the world's wealth is owned by 10% of its population. And all the talk about democracy and equality and all that stuff has got us nowhere. So we need to start thinking again, and we start, in my view, we start with the individual human being, and we see how we can assist that human being to be more than just a person who's got a job in an office paying a mortgage. It's nonsense.
What we're beginning to see is a new business model emerge, social entrepreneurialism. We have young people streaming out of the business schools, and they're creating these new models. So a lot of the old vertical top-down authority models are starting to give way to the more distributed, collaborative, open source, transparent models. It's going to affect every institution.
I think that perhaps there is perhaps a sociological or cultural climate that motivate people to be interested in more in how to promote empathy, how to feel empathy. And I think that that people are becoming more and more interested in understanding social behavior and social interaction and how we can use neuroscience.
It was remarkable to me that the United Nations invited me to speak at World Literacy Day about emotional literacy. It's never been on their agenda. So one of the things I said to them, that I understand that traditional literacy is the bridge from despair to hope, but emotional literacy allows us to connect to one another in the world. But as important as it is to learn to read, if we don't learn to relate, we are a failed society.
If you think about how we lived historically, we lived in tribes and clans and extended households, or big villages, big family groups. And I guess our natural state is to be together with other people. And it's a very, very modern phenomenon that we suddenly live either in very tiny households, like 2, 3 people, or live completely on our own.
Nobody knew that the way we built cities had any influence on lifestyles and people's life. There could be some theories about it, but there was no knowledge. And then I realized that a lot of basic knowledge was needed.
50% van de wereldbevolking leeft in stedelijk gebied. In 2050 zal dit 80% zijn. Hoe omgaan met leven in de stad? De documentaire The Human Scale op 23 februari op 1 en Canvas.
Wat is vrijzinnig humanisme? Er zijn veel mensen op de wereld. Mensen die van alles denken en geloven over het leven. Veel mensen geloven dat er een God is in de hemel, die alles en iedereen heeft gemaakt. Maar ik denk dat alles uit de natuur komt en dat we helemaal vrij zijn. Daarom ben ik vrijzinnig. Onze leraar zedeleer vraagt vaak onze eigen mening over van alles. Over wat we goed of verkeerd vinden bijvoorbeeld. Wel, pesten vind ik verkeerd, maar liefde en vriendschap vind ik dan weer goed. Als je vrijzinnig bent, geloof je niet zomaar wat anderen zeggen. En je kiest zelf wat belangrijk is. Dat is voor iedereen anders. Er zijn veel manieren om dingen te onderzoeken. Je kan nadenken en er is de wetenschap. Maar je kan ook gewoon met andere mensen praten of lezen. Ook dat kiest iedereen zelf. We hebben nooit allemaal dezelfde meningen. Dat is goed, want soms denken anderen aan dingen waar ik zelf niet aan denk. Zo leren we van elkaar en zo verandert ook je mening soms. In humanisme, daar zit het woordje human in. Dat betekent mens. Dat betekent dat mensen belangrijk zijn en dat je mensen graag ziet en respecteert. We leven allemaal samen op deze planeet en iedereen heeft recht op een goed leven. Want, hoe anders we ook allemaal zijn, niemand is beter dan iemand anders. We mogen toch niemand buitensluiten omdat ze anders denken of anders zijn? Vrijzinnig humanisme is zelf de baas zijn over je leven, maar wel rekening houden met anderen. Het is belangrijk dat we met elkaar leren samenwerken en mensen proberen te helpen. En wat vind ik dan belangrijk? Mijn familie, mijn vrienden, voetbal en spelletjes spelen, frietjes eten, ah ja, en Paco natuurlijk. En jij, wat vind jij belangrijk?